What do you wish you had known about leadership and pastoral ministry in your 20s and 30s?
Oh goodness, what would I have wanted to know about leadership and pastoral ministry? That as a minister, people are watching constantly and always. That it is okay to make mistakes, maybe not super big mistakes, but it is okay to make mistakes. It's about owning them, walking forward after making them, and even trusting those older than you and in leadership. They give good advice sometimes, even when we don't want to take it. In hindsight, a lot of the advice I was given was great advice. I was just pretty stubborn.
Okay. How about one thing you would have done differently early in your ministry?
One thing that I would have done differently. I think we go in with these preconceived ideas and notions. And so my very first church, I was probably the age of their children and grandchildren. And so I went in there thinking I have to prove that I'm a leader and show that I'm a leader and not their grandchild or not their children. And the very first advice that I was given was to love the people, in which I think I did love them, but I loved them in a different way. So if we could work on those ideas and preconceived notions that are in our heads, it could probably help everybody out in the long run.
How about a spiritual discipline or a habit or activity that you have found most helpful in your ministry?
So I actually just talked about this in my presentation. It is okay to focus on yourself. It's okay to take time for yourself. Your health is very important. So taking time to eat right, to exercise, to any of that kind of stuff, or to step back and say, I can't do this. I need a moment of respite. Those are okay, and take them.
Not to be judgmental in any way, but as you look at other pastors just in our culture today, like in our generation today, what's the one thing that you're seeing derail more and more of their ministries? I guess there are a certain habit or attribute or mistake that we seem to be falling into more and more during this kind of season of ministry.
I think the one thing, and it goes back to why I say take a respite, but people are literally working themselves to either sickness or death. And if you are sick and you are not well, there is no ministry. And the reality is, as much as it hurts, if we get sick or we die, they're just going to replace us. There's going to be another pastor, another minister, and in some amount of time, our name won't even be remembered.
So a lot of people talk about how it's crucial in ministry to keep God first, marriage second, like kids third. Like, so that idea of like sometimes ministry just takes a lot of our time, a lot of our energy. If we're good at it, we like to do ministry and serve the church. Like, how have you kept family still in the right priority slot?
And it's easy but hard for me. So where I live, my family is back in Virginia. The hard part, and that I'm still learning to work through, is I try to intentionally plan vacations and times that I spend with my family. My nieces and my mom and sister-in-law usually try to come once a year. I try to take a vacation over Christmas to go be with family, and at least once in the summer. The only hard part is, as a pastor, planning it with your schedule. Christmas is a major time in the church. To miss Sundays, and sometimes more than one, that's pretty major for a congregation. But I have tried to be very intentional about, sharing with my congregation that, hey, my family's not here. They're in Virginia. I only get to see them a few times a year. And if I miss a few Sundays, I think it's okay as long as it's planned out. We have somebody who can be there in my place, and worship continues. It's just a matter of making sure I don't plan them around major Christian holidays or major times for the church. But I try to be very intentional about planning time that I get to spend with my family.
How do you separate effectively from work to rest? Or like, how do you develop a rhythm of Sabbath in your life where you're not like overworking or burning out? You kind of talked about this a little bit with like some of the daily things with exercise stuff, but is there a special time you set aside every week to say like, it's my day off, or this is rest, or this is for me? Or how does that work for you?
I think I'm still learning and growing in that. I'm a part-time pastor, although I have started learning there is no such thing as a part-time pastor. So I really do try to be intentional about taking the me time or the my time or the time that I need for respite. I admit I don't have a day that I do that, and I probably should start doing it. But when I notice that I'm getting to that point, I have found that it's okay to say, okay, I need to take a step back, or I need to take a moment for the good of all, because you don't want a cranky or tired pastor and a not happy pastor.
What's a book you would recommend every pastor should read?
The one book that I recommend every pastor, not just every pastor, even every parishioner read, it is a book called Jesus Wars. And Jesus Wars looks at Christianity, Judaism, and the Nation of Islam. And it looks at how in some ways we're alike as well as how we're different. It looks at the scriptures and different things. And I recommend it just as a book that all people read, because this day and age, it seems like more and more and more we're becoming divisive from other religions, or we're finding a reason why we're different than those people. And sometimes we're more alike than different than we realize. So that just has been one book that has really helped me look at the differences, especially, again, between Christianity, Judaism, and the Nation of Islam, which are three of the big religions.
Yeah. This doesn't always happen in life, but every once in a while we're faced with like really two great opportunities. And like, how do you navigate making the choice when they both seem like equally great? Like whether it's, a job, or whether it's like even the church, or like we can't do both of these things, but both of these things would be good for the church to do. Like, how do you make that decision?
Prayer, always prayer, definitely. And I will admit, prayer doesn't always come first. Usually we go through the set of things we want to do, and then we come back to prayer. I'm really big about talking to mentors, talking to other people who have done things and been through things. One of the best pieces of advice that I got early on in ministry was to have 3 sets of people: a person in the room, a person kind of out of the room, and then a person not like in their church at all. So I have those mentors who I know have been there and who pastor that I talk to. Then I have those friends who are clergy and may not pastor that I'll talk to. And then I have some unchurched friends like that aren't churched at all that I'll talk to, because they all give you different perspectives and things to think about. And I'll use those perspectives in making that final decision.
A lot of times in the business world, they talk about finding small changes that can have much larger net benefits. Like you do something like small. If we just did this, like Google spends 10 to 15 minutes of free time a day, but then in that time they come up with some of their biggest ideas,
Mm-hmm.
So as a minister, like what are some small, like what's one small change you would say like a young minister can make that later on they'll have no idea like what a huge effect it will have? Anything come to mind?
Well, the one thing that comes to mind is in effectively using social media.
Okay.
Because you'll be amazing. It's free, or can be free, or low cost, but you can use it in a lot of ways. You can use it in advertising. You can use it in seeing other people's things and what they're doing in ministry. I think that's something easy and small that I would easily think about.
Taking care of your health is the other one that you would preach too.
Oh yes, I would definitely preach that.
Yeah, I mean I've noticed that myself since you've shared. Just like it's like the pastor just learned to take a walk and like take care of their body. Like the more effective everything else is, and the more we take that for granted, the less effective everything else is. So.
And I have noticed, you don't notice until after the fact, but lay people are more in tune than we realize they are. Because, I've had just random questions that I've asked lay, and they will say if it's okay if the pastor has to step away for a while, because if we don't have a well pastor, we don't have a well leader, we don't have a well church. So that's definitely something I employ everyone to make sure they put time and effort into.
Final question, what are you doing right now to ensure you continue to grow and develop as a leader or as a minister or as a person?
Right now, well, being back at the Flame has been amazing. I'll just give them that definitely publicity. But at my exact moment, for me, it would be the health thing. You have to And I didn't do this before. There's always going to be stuff. There's always going to be meetings. There's always going to be reports. There's always going to be sermon prep, and there's always going to be stuff that we have to do as pastors. And like I said, if we're gone, that stuff's still going to be there, and somebody else will have to do it. But in the last few years, I have been very intentional about just how I live my life and how I try to live towards a better health, and encouraging other people to do it as well. With the you don't necessarily realize other people are watching. I was doing a workout on Wednesdays, and I stopped because I didn't think anybody was watching. And then people started asking or wanting to know how the journey was going or what was going on.